kangaroo.
There's a cool looking kangaroo.
Hello everyone, welcome to another week of the Uncuckables. Just a short, sharp intro today because we can't trust David Hiscox, editor of the XYZ, and Matty Rose from Matty's Modern Life to keep quiet during the countdown, so we're just going to get right into it. And we are 5 minutes late. It was my bad. There was a
Dave's fault. That was Dave's fault.
Thanks for taking responsibility for me, Dave. And we are on.
He's a good man like that.
We are on using Skype, not Zoom, tonight because that's all Matty wants to use. And well, you didn't need to update it for once. That's amazing.
Yeah, I could have used Zoom, but I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I know that. You didn't need to update it for once. Oh, sorry, that's the entropy. I got entropy working here, so you all know how entropy works here on the Uncuckables. I put through the link in the live chat, and you can click on there to either ask us a question, or we can do a poll, or better yet, you can send us through a super chat.
So, is it just me, or how's everybody's first week of lockdown going? I don't know about you guys, but I've been enjoying it.
Officially like lockdown because they haven't wanted to use those words, but it's basically what it is now.
Yeah, it's lockdown in all but name, which is how I predicted it would happen. They just incrementally increase the restrictions, and everybody just basically gets the message. Okay, we've got to stay at home. We can't do that much. Personally, I've been loving it. I've started to get a good sleep routine happening. I've been playing the piano, done a little bit of reading. Starting to get it really well. I'm loving it, guys. How about you?
Someone in the chat said I'm streaming from a war zone. It's true.
Warzone? What is that? You've got the red robes behind you there.
Is that... I didn't even... Yeah. Bloody wife's living at crap all over the place again.
And since we are on Skype and Matty and Dave, they don't have the best grasp of it. Their camera keeps chopping and changing, and for some reason Matty turns green. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's probably Skype. Yeah. It's probably because I didn't update my Skype again.
It'll be the end. Yeah. So I think that's the Warzone comment. You'll be looking like you're on infrared.
You know what it is? Like if you put those stuff up there, you can actually see that the door's being kicked in.
Oh, you still haven't got that fixed? Isn't that an essential industry?
What, getting the door fixed?
Well, it's an essential. That like the carpenter or whoever, door repairman or whatever, would come and fix it.
Yeah, if I asked for him to do that, he would, for sure.
You don't want to, though?
Yeah, because it costs like $300 to fix a door. It's very expensive.
Write it off as a business expense with Matty's Modern Life or XYZ.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Could, maybe.
Or maybe there's some coronavirus welfare supplement subsidy, something you could get.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, we should all be trying to get free money right now.
Yeah, because what is there?
Like it grows on trees or something.
Yeah.
Like you can just
no, it gets printed in a mint. Or that.
No, yeah, a computer mint where they go 1, and then how many zeros are we going to put on it today, Herschel? 8. Okay. Boom. $10 million. Whatever. Is that $10 million? Is that zeros, isn't it? Or is that it? So it's $10 billion.
It's something up to 320 billion. The coronavirus. Well, it's not stimulus now. It's basically. What's that?
Printing money.
Yeah, or what do they call it? Economic hibernation. That's the new buzzword.
Going into debt. Short-term communism is what it is.
Hibernation. I haven't heard that. That's great.
it's so funny hearing all these leftists talk about, oh, it's capitalism failing. Oh, socialism's going to save us. Capitalism, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, capitalism's not actually failing. It's just not allowed to operate, for a start. And second of all this money printing isn't going to make us produce anything else. It's not like we're producing anything more. It's funny because it's not like we're producing much less either. I was thinking about that the other day, thinking the mining operations are still going to be going, the farms are still operating, and that's so, the food processing's still working, manufacturing's still going for the most part, well, whatever's left. So the productive capacity of the economy hasn't shut down. It's just the services sector, retail and hospitality has shut down essentially, other than grocery stores.
Matty, what you're saying is that we've just got rid of all the fake jobs in the fake industry.
Yeah, essentially at this point, it looks like that.
We've got rid of non-essential services.
So put it this way, if women just stopped going into work, so if women stopped going to work and just got married and let their husbands work, and if every foreigner was just deported, we could have unemployment down to 5% pretty quickly, even now. That's my theory.
Matty, you missed the announcement today that we now have universal childcare in Australia. Scott Morrison announced, and it's supposedly only for to help those in essential employment and industries. But as people have quickly pointed out, that anyone can take advantage, any parent, if they wish, if they're working from home and don't want their kids around while they're working from home, they can dump them in childcare.
Send the kids up to childcare. Gee.
I don't know if I'd want my kid around other kids right now. They could get infected.
Yeah.
With coronavirus or cultural Marxism?
Anything.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Thing is, Matty was actually making the right point here. If women didn't work, there'd probably be enough jobs for everybody still, and B, we wouldn't need free childcare because all the kids would be home with the women.
Exactly. And if we didn't have so many, and if we didn't have take the foreigners and like I said, take the foreigners and the women out of the economy. There are females that do jobs that are genuinely needed, like nursing, but
they can be nurses as well.
Yeah, if they're sodomites. That's a mean thing to say about. I'm just kidding. Male nurses, if you're not gay,
many of them would be fathers.
Sodomites. Yeah, I know. I'm just joking. That's a mean thing to say about them. They're not homo. Their boyfriends are, but they aren't. I'm just keep going. Actually, there are plenty of male nurses who are actually good. Do it not that way. But my point being, in all seriousness, there are a few female jobs that are actually something. There are a few jobs that females tend to take that are actually still useful, like nursing would be one of them, especially now. Yeah, and
so that's one.
That's one.
Yeah.
But I say a few female jobs, as in there's more than one female nurse, But I can't actually think of any other occupations. I'm sure there's one. I'm sure there might be one more, a couple more, but there's not many. But there are a lot of male jobs that are completely essential, like farming, manufacturing, mining, all these kind of things. Yeah. All these kind of things. But like I said, I'm going to say it again. If all the women just got out of the workforce, other than the ones that are in essential roles such as nursing, and we sent all the foreigners home, then everyone would still have a job, essentially.
Well, WA, they don't want any Easterners in their state now. They're having a even harder border shutdown at midnight Sunday, where they're telling all West Australians to get back. And Mark McGowan, the West Australian Premier, has put out this Facebook post.
Tim, can I just interrupt? The chat is offering some other really, really good examples of jobs that women can do.
I'm saying.
Cooking, midwives, ironing, cleaning, milkmaids, and beer wench. Okay, sorry, please continue.
Yep.
But they can't be a beer wench though, because beer wench is closed down. And I mean, cooking, ironing, and cleaning isn't that just three subcategories of wife.
Yeah, housework. You don't get paid for cooking dinner in your house.
Well, wife is the most valuable job in the economy. Housewife, wife and mother. That's the most valuable job there is. And the lie of feminism is that they can do a more valuable job out in the workforce. They can't. That's not true.
All right, can I get to this message from WA Premier Mark McGowan?
How the WA Premier is being extremely coastist.
Yes. To any eastern staters thinking of coming to WA, don't come. Right now, you're not welcome. Premier Mark McGowan, Premier of Western Australia.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Premier's being a coastist.
Well, WA, they did vote for secession in the 30s during the Great Depression, which was another economic emergency or catastrophic event, and so they decided in that time to go it alone. And they're doing it again, basically saying Easterners, fuck off.
I do find it ironic that the WA wanted to declare independence in the 1930s, particularly after they lost the Emu War. Like how they're going to defend themselves from anybody. They list emus, then they declare independence. Not a good move.
WA, they've also
look
got
look it up.
They've got the drones.
They lost the war against emus.
Yeah, look up the Great Emu War.
They've got the drones out in Western Australia, and if you are seen not complying with social distancing 1.5 meters away, then you can get an ankle bracelet, and you can get, it's 6 months jail in New South Wales. It's 10 years jail in WA.
Wow. Have you seen in the UK where they've got police going around going, stay in your home.
Yes.
We have to fight the coronavirus, and then all the London tubes are still operating. So and they're all packed.
Public transport in Melbourne is
cloud world.
Is still going, and
public transport's still operating. What the hell? Turn it off.
Yeah. Victoria Police today they said they issued 13 infringements, including against a brothel that was operating in Geelong because they got a tip off from neighbours that the street was full of cars.
Yeah, it's a brothel operating as well. People got their priorities right, obviously.
Well, there was a temporary bonking ban in Victoria on Wednesday because Lisa Neville and Daniel Andrews said that visiting a partner who you don't live with is non-essential, and it was reversed that afternoon by the chief medical officer.
Of course they reversed it. I would have kept it in unless they were married. It would have been the anti-fornication law.
Oh yeah, but don't forget that Daniel Andrews. Yeah, I don't know. Daniel Andrews has shut down his voter base's industries and business. All of the clubs, pubs, the musos, the entertainment industry. He didn't want to lose the degenerates as well.
What are you talking about? His voter base has just got a massive boost. The government's spending $300 billion on welfare. That's a stroke to Daniel Andrews' voter base right there. It's perfect for him. Parasites everywhere. All this free money flooding the country.
Yeah,
what
but
are we going to do?
What's it if you can't be out and about? You can't be a socialite, living the high life.
Oh well, I don't believe in democracy anyway.
Well said.
You just have to look at. I've been reading Osman Faruqi's Twitter account where he's complaining about all this. And also about
he blocked my fake account.
The racism incidents. Well, there was that. Was it Marrickville where this Asian woman was abused in the street? And apparently there was one on a Sydney train today where a guy abused Asians wearing face masks as well, accusing them of bringing in the coronavirus and spreading it.
Good. I want people to be doing this all the time. I saw a video today of an Asian woman in America, touching in a shop, just touching all the computers and stuff on purpose, going up and touching each one. And it was a video of it. It was in one of the most highly infected places in America. this Chinese woman going around. Like I put it up on my Gab, where this Chinese woman goes around and starts touching all the computers. But here's the thing: that's just the one that got caught on camera. I reckon there would be hundreds.
They've got
around the place.
They've got the plastic screens now at the checkouts. Now they've been rolling it out at Woolies.
Yeah.
I call them the cough guards. So in case a cashier or one of the customers coughs, and it's captured by the cough guard. But the fresh fruit and vegetables, that's all still open. There's no cough guard.
Yeah, it's also
there.
You just got to wash them. You have to wash every single one. Every time I get fresh fruit and veg, I just wash it thoroughly. Wash my hands with soap. Before I
is washing the fruit and veg because you fear that they might have germs on them. Is that also racist?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Probably, yeah.
Having been to other countries where they do that, I've been to other countries where they actually put disinfectant on it and then wash it.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw that teenage girl that was abusing the Asian woman in the street. Now, I'm pretty sure she spat on the girl, which is uncalled for. But other than the spitting, which is not don't spit on people. It's just vile and gross. But the sentiments of getting angry and saying Asian people or Chinese people are the reason this is here and all that kind of thing, I'm not going to get angry or upset at anyone saying that. In fact, I'm going to think, yeah, you're right to be angry because they shouldn't be here. The whole point of our constitution and the federating of the country
different
is
issues
to keep them out.
But also,
maybe I think it's all the same issue. I think it's the same issue because if it wasn't for open borders and multiculturalism, we wouldn't have no cases here at all, pretty much. Or maybe we'd have a few. We'd have a few cases and we'd be able to isolate them quickly and it would be like in Russia that has... How many cases are there in Russia? I don't think there's many.
No, not many people believes that the numbers coming out of Russia.
Well, I believe the numbers coming out of Russia before I believe the numbers coming out of the mainstream media.
And I believe the numbers out of Russia before I believe the numbers out of China.
What is it? China claims that they've still only got 81,000 cases and 3,300 deaths, and they only had 6 new deaths today. Meanwhile, USA, they're up to 215,000.
1,000 deaths in one day,
Russia's got 2,000. Russia has 2,077 in a country of what? How many million people? 60 to 100 million people. They have 2,777 deaths, cases, and 24 deaths. So Russia's doing pretty well. And then we got you got other cases. Where are we? Venezuela's only got 144 cases. No one wants to go there. New Zealand's done pretty well. Only 800 cases, just short of 800.
Well, Jacinta Ardern has achieved that by having a total fascist police state. I spoke with Due last week on Trad Tasman Talk, who said that, not even the fast food is open. You can't get Uber Eats at all. We've still got all of that. The coffee shops can be open in Australia, but only for takeaway.
Yeah, that's yeah, but anyway, that is Jacinta Ardern. Her teeth are fascist.
The smiling tyrant. Same with Gladys Berejiklian. I mean, we've often said that Daniel Andrews runs a totalitarian state, but New South Wales they've always been way up on the totalitarian scale. Gladys Berejiklian, she's another smiling tyrant with... David Elliott, the police minister, who is shaped and also looks like a dickhead.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so he was the one who Reg Penny knows. He fired an illegal gun without the proper licensing. He went over to Europe during the bushfires and it defended New South Wales police strip searching miners.
Cool.
Do you mean that? So, do you mean that's like ironically, or like are you serious saying that's cool?
I wasn't really paying attention, to be honest.
So taking the conversation back a few minutes, we were talking about figures, the death toll figures. if you go onto Worldometers, you'll see that there are a number of different graphs that they've got.
I'm not sure if I can bring them up here, whether it's going to... I can try.
Don't worry too much about that. Basically, there are a few different graphs that you can see. Like, basically, you can see how for a while the increase was going along quite slowly, and then there's just been a big hockey stick up. And yeah.
So we are flattening the curve in Australia. If you look at our health.gov.au, the curve is flattening, and it could dip.
We only had 58 new cases out of 5,000. So that's just over a 1% increase. So that's pretty slight.
For all our sort of criticism, we may have put the lockdown just in time in Australia, but time will tell. What's interesting, that there's a graph that you can bring up on Worldometers where you see the number of deaths per day, and so all the way up until sort of mid-March, it was just like maybe a couple of hundred or less, and then sort of mid-March it started to go up, and then by sort of March 1920, it was around about 1,000 a day. By March 25 or so, it pipped 2,000. By March 27, it was 3,000 a day. And then basically, like yesterday, it was nearly 5,000 a day. So the number of people dying worldwide is increasing. And so again, it could go down, it could go up. That's going to be interesting to see.
Well, New York, the United States, specifically the state of New York, because Worldometers now has, for the United States, state-by-state breakdown, and there's been more casualties now in New York than in 9/11 now. 83,000 of the coronavirus cases are in New York State. 22,000 are in neighboring New Jersey. There's been 2,200 deaths in the state of New York, 355 in New Jersey. And basically the state of New York and New York City, they're having to have all these makeshift hospitals and morgues, and we're seeing a lot of Chris Cuomo's older brother, Andrew Cuomo, who's the governor of New York. And Chris Cuomo is, or as he is also known, Fredo, because he's the Italian weak brother, because he just hosts the CNN show while Andrew is the governor of California. And so he's got coronavirus now, Chris Cuomo, Fredo, and is now doing Cuomo Primetime from his... He claims that's his basement, but it looks a very sort of sophisticated basement there.
He's doing it in his pajamas from his basement.
Yeah, and also social media has been quite distracted. They're seeing a lot of Andrew Cuomo, and he's wearing like a polo shirt, and you can see his nipple ring, like it's sticking out.
Yeah, I've heard about that. So back to the figures then. So New York's a good example of it. So what we're seeing is that we're seeing hotspots. Where the virus is in certain countries. Apparently in Korea, South Korea, not North Korea, like they had one coronavirus patient, then zero, then one, then zero. South Korea, they were testing everybody, as many people as they could, and they were able to identify like just a few small places where the coronavirus had taken hold. And so they locked down those areas rather than locking down.
Well, we're doing pretty well with 268,000 tests being carried out in Australia. I know Greg Hunt has been trumpeting that, saying we're doing even better testing than South Korea on a per capita basis now.
Yeah, good.
Tested 1% of the population.
Like I said, we may have put the lockdown just in time. What happens is if things get out of control, then locally, the local hospital system gets overwhelmed. So, like even in Italy, like where over 10,000 people have died, I think it might be 12 or 13 now. It's mostly in a few different provinces. It's not throughout the whole country. So it's
13,000 deaths.
Yeah, and so what that means is that it's like there's a point for every country where once you reach a certain number of coronavirus cases, the deaths start to go up. So this is a comment from John Shepherd on the XYZ, who disagreed with a piece by Mark Moncrief, which, for the record, I disagree with as well. But Mark's making some really good points as well. But Mark was sort of saying, look, the lockdowns are not proportionate to the number of people who've died. But John Shepherd was pointing out, when the numbers of cases go up, then the number of deaths go up. So this is a quote from Zero Hedge. Virtually every nation that has a large number of reported cases has continued to see mortality rates climb. In Spain, the mortality rate now stands at 8.7. 10 days ago, it stood at 5.4. In the Netherlands, the mortality rate stands at 8.3. 10 days ago, at 3.8. In the United Kingdom, the mortality rate stands at 7.1. 10 days ago, it stood at 4.6. France, now it's 6.7. 10 days ago, it's 3.9. Belgium, 5.5 to 2.4. So every nation where the mortality rate has been relatively low has seen the rates climb. So Portugal, 2.2 as opposed to 0.9 a few days ago. In the US, mortality rate is currently at 2%. 10 days ago, it stood at 1.2%. Even South Korea, 1.7 as opposed to 10 days ago, it was 1.2. And so basically, we've got a pattern there where we actually see the mortality rate increasing as the number of coronavirus cases increases. So that implies that hospitals are getting overwhelmed, for starters. And we might be flattening the curve in terms of like numbers of people getting it, but we're actually seeing a rise in mortality rates.
In Australia, yes. And I know that Daniel Andrews, he's basically preparing for the worst case scenario. Like he was looking at having the exhibition and convention centre as a makeshift morgue, and they've significantly increased the ICU beds. So they in Victoria, they don't want to get be caught with their pants down like nations Italy and New York have. But given
is anyone else like totally bored with coronavirus by now?
Well, it's our way of life now.
It's the only thing we talk about is coronavirus. Well, Chinese diversity flu.
Dusty Bogan
we're analysing the death rates.
Yeah. Dave was the one who wanted to get into the really technical stuff. Dusty Bogan, he calls it bat AIDS because
that's hilarious.
It did evolve from coronavirus.
Chinese bat AIDS.
Yeah,
Chinese bat AIDS.
Dave,
can you play the Moonlight Sonata thingamajigger again?
No.
Oh, he's camera shy now. Dave's got his piano next to him.
Yeah, he was playing before and it was amazing. It was fantastic. Some of the best piano I've ever heard. And now he's just like, I don't want to buy it.
You're such a dickhead, Matty.
What are you talking about? I'm giving you a compliment. And now you're just like, you're a dickhead.
But yes, in China, they seem to believe, since they claim they've got the virus under control, that they can open up the wet markets and sell live animals like bats again. And everyone who is in the sort of mainstream media commentariat are saying that these wet markets need to be shut down. We can't have this happen again. And I'm noticing in the Twitter replies, there's still lefties replying saying it's their culture. Like,
hey, I'm going to say something. I'm going to interject here. I've got 2 points to make here because I do have to get going because I'm getting tired. Firstly, the Lord says that the Lord says that you can pretty much eat anything. That doesn't mean that you should eat everything. You know, it's disgusting to eat dogs, bats, rats, all that kind of stuff. I'm not condoning their eating of dogs and cats and all that kind of rubbish. But the Lord does say it's okay to eat everything. It's not a sin anymore. There's no dirty animals as long as they're clean and all that kind of thing. It's not sinful.
Filthy.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. Excuse me. I'm talking. But they are filthy. I agree with you. It's filthy to eat cats. It's filthy to eat dogs, bats, rats, all these kind of things. But this is a country. Stefan Molyneux had a really good point the other day. He said he pointed this out. This is a country of 1 billion people with that eats dogs and cats and rats and all this mice and everything all over the country. So this is happening all the time, over the country. What are the odds? Yeah. What are the odds of this disease coming out, starting in a market that just happens to be half a kilometre away from the only bioweapons lab in the entire country?
Possibility from the outbreak.
But it's not just the possibility; it's actually the most logical and likely.
This strain of coronavirus did come from bat coronavirus, so either it was from eating bats or from that bioweapons.
Also
at that biolab.
Both of you shut up. So that's the point, though, because in the interview that Stefan Molyneux did with Dr. Cottrell, he said yes, they were working on coronavirus, i.e., the virus that bats get.
Yeah, and they were working on fusing it with bats as well at that. That's what I heard that as well.
With AIDS, yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So this is more than likely an engineered disease, an engineered virus. It's just either they've released it or it's escaped or whatever, and now the whole world is suffering for Chinese incompetence, stupidity, and malevolence as well, because it looks like a lot of Chinese citizens are actually going around stripping our supermarkets of goods, and there are videos of Chinese people coughing on things and spitting on things, and that one I told you about where they're wiping up, that Chinese woman wiping down computer monitors and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I can't see it. I think, what was it? It was like Malcolm Roberts has said that we should maybe we should demand compensation for China for what they've done.
And George Christensen has said that as well, and so have Advance Australia, the conservative lobby group, but basically in the form of seizing back the farms without compensation.
Exactly. We should seize them back without compensation. But the thing is, China will likely react violently, so we're going to have to hand rifles out to every single able-bodied Australian man and grenades and bulletproof vests and helmets to say, come get us.
The whole world is, the people of the world are angry with China for...
Everybody's gunning for China.
Giving birth to this virus. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's still only 1 billion Chinese. There's still a minority in that regard. Yeah,
and it is still a punishment from the Lord as well. It's a punishment for the Lord for human beings meddling with nature in such a stupid way, and all our other stuff as well. So the Lord will often use human actions to punish us in this manner. And either way, China needs to pay.
Yeah, we've got we've got a question and a super chat over on Entropy. Oh, my screen just went blank there. It's back now. This is a question from Juicy Brucey Boy. Is Timmy going to say the N-word tonight like he did on Dusty's stream? Well, Dusty invited on, who was it? It was on Tuesday. It was a joint show with Wilmsfront and Dusty Bogan. He invited his mate Roots on, who said the N-word.
Nationalism?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And we've got a super chat from Port Film Co-op for $3. Governments are now openly attacking China for their cover-up of the outbreak. Is this the signaling a reset of relations with China? Can we expect more support for Taiwan and Hong Kong? Reparations, compensation. I noticed an article on the XYZ written by you, Dave, about Josh Frydenberg. Basically, all the foreign investment decisions now have to be signed off by him. The Foreign Investment Review Board isn't going to just able to rubber stamp them. Then why'd you call him Australia's Jewish treasurer? Do you call
because he is?
If Tim Wilson was the treasurer, would you call him Australia's homosexual treasurer?
Yes,
I would. Actually, no, I wouldn't call him that. I'd call him Australia's sodomite treasurer. I'd be a lot harsher than just calling him a homosexual. Australia's pervert treasurer.
So back to the Chinese then.
Yeah. Can I make you make your point that I'm going to make it? I got to run.
Okay.
Got to put those robes away.
Rather than making the point I was going to make, if you've got to run, let me throw something at you then, because I'm interested in your take on this. So, what we have at the moment is a chance for nationalists, patriots, people opposed to globo, homo, and multiculturalism to actually get an audience again, because people are at home, they're on the internet, they're angry, they're going to get more and more frustrated. This is actually a time to actually make some political headwind again, like we did when we had Fraser Anning in Parliament making nationalist talking points, like in the seat of power in Canberra. What do you reckon of that, Matty? Do you reckon this is actually another sort of Fraser Anning moment where we could actually start to make some headwind?
Well, yes and no. I mean, if people should be putting content out there anyway. I made that article. I wrote that article for you today. I've been pretty lazy over the last week in terms of content. I've just been basically reading the Bible all day, getting through it as quickly as I can.
Why don't you film yourself, live stream yourself reading the Bible?
I might do some more God streams. I did a bit of a God stream last Matty Rose live. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you said that XYZ's traffic's gone up quite a bit, so it's an opportunity for us to make content. People are going to be listening. People are now going to be more open to our ideas as well, because we've been vindicated.
And people are going to be more open to a nationalist candidate as well, because people are angry with China. People want manufacturing to come back here. People are starting to understand, hey, it's multiculturalism and open borders which has spread this virus and has brought it here. And
you notice that this past week there's been no articles warning about the far right exploiting the coronavirus.
There was one, and then I talked about it on my stream. Did we talk about it on together?
We talked about one as well. We destroyed it. It was just being sloppy.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. Yeah. That was one I'd already seen, but I haven't seen any new ones. Basically, because it's falling on deaf ears now, and
it's stupid too.
Yeah,
because you go, sorry, and then I'll finish up.
Dave will remember last week's Uncuckables. We went through 2 reports from Kate McClymont from the Sydney Morning Herald, hardly a far-right white supreme pizza, talking about 2 Chinese-owned companies. What are they called? Something innocuous like Evergreen Outdoor something, who in January and February have been shipping back essential medical supplies back to China, and now it is illegal now to export essential medical supplies, face masks, hand sanitizer to China now. It is illegal now.
So basically what we're seeing at the moment is XYZ staple topics are actually now staple topics in the mainstream media.
Yeah, Kate McClymont, she's one of Australia's most well-known investigative reporters. She's the one that wrote the book on Eddie Obeid. She called him the most corrupt politician in Australia's history, and was the ICAC reporter. Yeah,
so if we've got the mainstream media talking about essentially what are implicit nationalist talking points, we've got a chance here for a nationalist candidate to actually take advantage of this.
And I know that you talked about that cop on the weekend who got spat on by that Lebanese woman. Was she Lebanese or just Arabic in a hijab? I know that.
Either way, she was a Muslim.
She was Lebanese, and she was in
I know that the left were hoping that this was fake news or a video taken out of context, but no, it was 100% true.
Yeah, you can't take that video out of context.
And then, all right, I'll just finish up on this. I'll just say it's funny because the only articles about the far right have been far right trying to exploit this crisis for their own ends, and we sort of destroyed that by pointing out that we don't need to exploit anything. All we need to do is point out the truth and point out that we've been warning this about something like this for years now. So no, we first of all, why would we shut up when we've been vindicated? We're going to say, I told you so, as many times as we possibly can, because we're going to rub your face in it, you lefty traitor scum, and we're going to keep rubbing your face in it until we get our way. And so why would we stop? That's mainly the only point. And the other one is we don't need to lie. We don't need to exaggerate or exploit anything. We just need to say the truth. All right, lads, I've got to go. I'm over time.
Cheers, Matty.
All right. Have a good night. I'll end now that Matty's gone. I'll enlarge my camera because I'm being confined to this small space. Dave, you got your camera up the wrong. Can you flip it?
I guess I can. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go. It's just the two of us now. So don't forget to join us on Entropy, ask us a question, or super chat. I want to go back to New York for a moment because you talked about the hotspots, and they all are globalist hubs or ones where they're scared about being called racist. Because there was that mayor in, I think it was the city of Florence in Italy, who
Chinese.
Haga Chinese, where now you're not allowed to touch in Australia. You're not allowed to touch anybody.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is if it's globalist hotspots, it's places where globalists are likely to travel to. There's a lot of travel in and out. That makes sense. Another interesting stat is that women in the 21 to 29-year-old age bracket are more likely than guys to get coronavirus, which implies that they have quite active social lives, which means that they come into contact with more people. It's the people who it's kind of rewarding people who stay home with their kids and family. Really, that's what's going on. You don't have too much contact with too many different people, and especially with people from overseas. You're much less likely to get it. So yeah, it's the elitists getting it. It's the actors getting it. It's hard not to smile.
I've noticed that Australian Meditations is in the chat. A lot of our regular viewers are welcoming him back. Because we
should get him to Skype in.
Yeah, a lot of people are suggesting that he's obviously watching. He's got the Skype number or my number, so he can ring in if he likes.
Oh, I've got a good number too. Yeah. Tell us more about this Cuomo character. What I found interesting, about a week ago, it was suggested that by Vox Day, actually, that Biden was sort of set up to fail, and maybe I heard a number of articles. I read a number of articles, and I even heard something on the ABC. They were talking about Cuomo as though he was the new hero.
They want to bring him in as like an emergency candidate because Biden's cooped up in his study. And Mark Dice has done some compilations of him being interviewed at his...
Joe Biden.
Yeah, and he's also doing his campaign stops, and he's got the Biden... what do you call them again? The name escapes me. The podium, that's it.
To be honest, I haven't seen a great deal of Biden, but I don't need to see a montage like I've seen enough.
But yeah, he looks like he's already like in a home. Like that's what he's now. A lot of people have said that he should be in a home. Now he is one, acting even worse than he was before.
Yeah. So what I find interesting about Cuomo, there are a couple of articles they're trying to make him into a Rudy Giuliani figure, essentially, because Rudy Giuliani, like in the early days after September 11, he was probably more popular than George Bush, which is why he had a crack at the presidency himself. But then Donald Trump came along and blew that out of the water. But I get the impression that Cuomo has been a little bit panicky in the last few days. Like Donald Trump has said, "Hey, I'm sending some Navy ships to New York to act as an extra hospital," and so Donald Trump has sort of stepped back in as the alpha and said, "Look, Cuomo, I'm taking care of this."
Yeah, he's having his beating his Italian chest because he comes from an Italian family dynasty. Mario Cuomo was the governor of New York, who believed that the Italian mafia was just a racist invention.
Yeah. Okay. Hey. It's
Hey.
Stefanous. Good to see you, man.
G'day.
Yeah,
Can you see me?
I'll just readjust my screen again so the audience can hear.
Cool.
In the meantime, I've got a question from MJ. Do you think it's a coincidence Swamp Critters Hillary and Comey were going to New Zealand the other year, inciting a lot of speculation, and New Zealand has the lowest rate of infection and death? I did hear that one or two billionaires actually made their way down to New Zealand. I've actually heard that. So it's entirely plausible that there's something going on in New Zealand, that there are globalists who've gone down to hide in New Zealand, and that Jacinta Ardern has shut the entire country down, basically, for them.
And they're doing, in New Zealand, as Due said last week, the police are harassing a lot more people out on the street. I noticed that Egg Boy, he was trapped in New Zealand because he was over there to speak at the Christchurch mosque. Apparently, he's back in Sydney in one of those quarantine hotels, which some people have been complaining about because breakfast was late and their eggs were runny and the tomato wasn't cooked properly.
Yeah, what that shows is that here at the start of the pandemic, people are still pretty soft.
Yeah,
they'll harden up over the next 6 months.
And they voluntarily
myself included.
Yeah, they these people in the hotels in Sydney, they're making videos saying it's worse than being a prisoner, not being self-aware that people such as us and other people online are saying, what an entitled trash you are.
Do you find it a little ironic that people are being threatened with jail time for breaching quarantine, but they're talking about releasing prisoners anyway?
Yeah, because they're definitely going to obey self-isolation requirements. Well, there's all those cruise ships still off the shore of Australia, which they're not letting dock after the Ruby Princess. That cruise ship was allowed to disembark at Sydney Harbour, and I think it's now a majority of the coronavirus. No, it's the single biggest cluster of coronavirus deaths and infections in Australia, because those cruise ships are basically incubators for those type of illnesses. They've got a lot of old people on them as well, and some of these
they're incubators at the best of times. Wasn't it 6 months ago or so? There was the cruise ship from hell where everybody got gastro.
Yeah, I'd never go on a cruise.
Were they like domestic cruise ships, like Tasmania or international?
No, they go these cruise ships, Carnival and Princess Cruises. They basically sail all around the world 12 months a year. They have a global. It's basically a mini globe that's on the ship at any one time, and they dock in various parts of the world. People go off and shop and do local tourism before they go on the cruise ship again to someplace else.
Yeah, because from my understanding, it's about 2/3 of all the new cases of COVID are from overseas. So usually airplanes and cruise ships.
Yeah, which is why foreigners are not allowed into Australia at all. It's only permanent residents and citizens who are allowed back in, and now there's the mandatory quarantine. Which is, that flashback to just over a month ago when the China travel ban was called racist. China complained about it, and there was the socialist alternative protest against the racist Chinese ban.
Yeah, and also I saw a few politicians. I think, what was that? Christina Keneally? That's the one. Christina Keneally, the blonde.
Oh, yeah, she Shadow Home Affairs Minister.
That's the one, and also the member for what's his name? Scullin. Member for Scullin. I forgot his name. But he's a very left wing. But he and Christina Keneally did a video on Little Bourke Street, and they were encouraging people to go to like a Chinese restaurant, because in Melbourne, Bourke Street is Chinatown. And basically, about a couple of weeks before the lockdown, so to speak, or when Scott Morrison announced these really stringent measures, they were encouraging people to not be racist and to look out and support the Chinese community. And you had other people saying we should go to Chinese restaurants.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering how stupid they feel.
Your
now,
civic duty, Gary Hardgrave, former Howard government minister, said it's your civic duty to go out and have a Chinese meal.
Yeah, even the racial discrimination commissioner or whatever, human rights commissioner, what the position, the person that replaced, what's that girl's name? That little female lawyer, what's her name?
Gillian Triggs.
Yeah, the one that replaced her did a video.
Rosalind
video like
Croucher.
Something like that. But yeah, basically, you had all these people just encouraging people going to a Chinese restaurant, and now I'm just wondering how they feel, given that it's actually not helping at all. It actually goes against the rules now. Yeah.
And all it was because they've been criticizing Trump for saying that we've got the coronavirus contained, we can get through this by Easter, but all the politicians left and right, they're all on tape saying a month ago, you just go get about your business, there's nothing to worry about, go to Chinese restaurants. I mean, you could probably go back a month ago to the Uncuckables, where we probably didn't think that it would get as bad as it did.
I did.
Because we're not dealing with a human being here, we're dealing with a virus. A virus doesn't abide by human behavior and doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
How long do you guys think we're going to be in lockdown? Somebody asked me that today. I said 6 months. Well,
that's the timeline that Scott Morrison said. Whatever we've got to do for at least 6 months. Everyone.
What do you think he means when we say that? Are we going to sort of see a partial relief in 3 months' time, or do you reckon it's just like?
Well, they might do because you're only allowed to. Let's have a look at New South Wales. Their public health order directive here. So I didn't bring it up here. I'll just bring it up here. But yeah, this public health order in New South Wales, it says. I'll see if I can lift it up any further. I can't even read that there. Here we go here. It's the Minister for Health and Medical Research, Brad Hazzard. He's the one that also led off that Ruby Princess people. The objective is order to give certain ministerial discretions to deal with the public health risk of COVID-19 and its possible consequences. In particular, this order directs that a person must not, without reasonable excuse, leave the person's place of residence. An example of reasonable excuse is leaving for reasons involving obtaining food or other goods and services, travelling for the purposes of work or education if the person cannot do this at home, or exercise or medical or caring reasons. In addition, this order directs that a person must not participate in gathering in a public place of more than 2 persons. Exceptions included gatherings of members of the same household and gatherings essential for work and education. Section 10 of the Public Health Act 2010 creates an offence if an individual fails to comply with the direction. Maximum penalty of imprisonment at 6 months, fine of up to $11,000 or both, plus further $5,500 fine each day the offence continues. Corporations that fail to comply with directions are liable for fine of $55,000 and $25,500 each day the offence continues. That's New South Wales. Victoria's following a similar. I'm not sure if you saw the footage of parks in Sydney where the police are driving in people who are reading books or sunbaking, telling them to move along.
Yeah, right.
Even drones, man. They're using drones.
Yeah, in Western Australia.
Yeah, they're using drones down there. Jesus.
We are basically, because obviously you're a supporter of Australia First, Stefanous both as a political party and a philosophy. Now we're basically becoming state first now, because Western Australia has said, we don't want Eastern kind to come to our state now. And I'm pretty much Victoria first. I see the police state in New South Wales. It's like, I don't live there. I don't care. I just want freedom in Victoria now.
Well, I saw Neil Mitchell on 3AW. He mentioned that he supports these measures, these very stringent measures, but he said that he has confidence in Australian society that once this crisis is over, all these really bad laws, like on-the-spot fines and stuff, are going to be, suspended. This is just a state of emergency. And I'm just wondering, I think that's mostly true. I think most of them will go, but I think remnants of them will remain. I don't know which ones, but my fear is that if we stay like this for 6 to 8 months, there'll be some remnants of some of these really stringent authoritarian laws that will sort of remain and seep through different forms of legislation, and then we'll be stuck with some of them.
These powers, I just went through the New South Wales one, which is it's an order from the minister under Section 7, so he can just make this order regulation out of the Section 7 of the Public Health Act. And in Victoria, Daniel Andrews and his minister's chief medical officer, what did you call Lisa Neville, big fat sister? That's what you called.
Yes.
Called Dave.
We actually got a response from her on Twitter.
Oh, from the XYZ account.
Yeah, she actually responded to the XYZ
wow.
account.
She platformed you.
I was actually considering writing another piece condemning her for giving XYZ a platform, but I figured that baiting the police minister in a police state during a pandemic probably wasn't the smartest thing, so I just left it at that.
But yes, these powers are granted in Victoria through the state of emergency powers, which actually came out of the Bushfire Royal Commission and were used during the January bushfires in eastern Gippsland. And there apparently is that there's one above in Victoria, a state of emergency. There's a state of disaster.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the types of measures that we're seeing at the moment, they are actually necessary.
100%.
Yeah, and I've just been reading about the Great Plague in London in 1666. And similar measures were taken there, although thankfully we're not locking entire families up in their homes here. And during the Spanish flu in the United States, similar measures were taken there as well. Like the public gatherings were limited to 2, public transport stopped, work times were staggered. So this is what you do during a pandemic to stop the pandemic spreading to everybody.
Well, yeah, it's what
we've got the emperor here.
It was back in those days. They shut the border of towns and cities immediately. In the globalist age, it's the leaders in charge have had to basically in the end been dragged to this position where they've had to shut borders to foreigners.
You could say that, or you could say that they've conditioned us to get used to the idea of these quarantines as well.
I was already used to not jet setting around the world. That's not how I want to live.
Personally, I'm quite happy to spend all my time at home and nobody's allowed to bother me. I'm quite happy with that. What gets people talking, and it's why I sort of did a sort of almost that tongue-in-cheek piece about Lisa Neville. If you want to find a way to set in place totalitarian measures and then just never lift them, then this is your way. Yes, we're talking about, like in Australia, like we would expect, just because of the way Australia is, that things would be lifted once it's all over. But things are going to be different once it's all over. We're not going to have the economy that we have now. And
the only way we're going to survive now, since we are going to come out of this better than other nations. I mean, the US, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. Same within Europe and the UK, where we're going to have to become self-sufficient forcibly in most industries, and we already are in agriculture, but that's also going to have to be beefed up as well, because the tyranny of distance has been our best friend during this, and it will be what will help us get it through it because if the rest of the Western world is in disarray because they've had all these thousands of deaths from coronavirus, and of course we don't trust China anymore, who else is there for us to basically rely on for rebuilding Australia?
It'll be us.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know if you guys saw, but I'm disgusted with some of the commentary I'm seeing by The Guardian and The Age. They did an article recently because Scott Morrison, I don't know if you saw it, but Scott Morrison did some sort of video for some Christian group or something.
A prayer video.
Yeah, and all he said was like, I want God on our side. The house. I forgot what he said, but it's something that connected God to this crisis, and I think that's fine. And they had a go at him for that. And I'm just, because I remember I did a lot of research, but when I had the Meditations channel, I did a lot of research on secularism in the Australian context. And when the Founding Fathers talked about secularism, for them it was about no denomination, like Catholicism or the Protestants, having control of Australia, like not the church governing and not making sure none of those groups dominate. But they were fine with Christian values influencing policy. And there was a situation where during the constitutional, what's it called? The constitutional debates?
Conventions or...
Conventions, yes. From the 1890s onwards, you had, I'm not kidding, thousands of letters from average Australians who were demanding their representatives from each state and territory, so to speak, like Henry Parkes, to make sure that they had a reference to God in the Constitution. And that eventually happened. And in the preamble to the Constitution, there is a reference to God. And everything that comes after, that, the Constitution itself, is based on God, basically. And the point is that, if anything, what Scott Morrison is doing is completely makes sense. He's not trying to govern Australia. I don't know. Is he Third Day? What's his denomination?
He's Pentecostal.
Pentecostal. He's not saying that the Pentecostal church should govern Australia. He's just saying that, he wants God on our side, which I think is fair enough, and it's completely legal. And that's what the Founding Fathers envisioned. They wanted us to promote Christianity, just not have a church govern Australia, which is completely different. That's what secularism is.
And Scott,
that's a really good point, Stefanous. I think the concept of freedom of religion has been hijacked by the left. It's been used to allow non-Christian religions to subvert the West. When the idea of freedom of religion, the concept of it, was basically to find a way for us to have countries where the different denominations of Christianity aren't fighting each other all the time.
100%. And the other thing I was going to say is that, let's just say they're all for multiculturalism. Well, Christianity is a form of culture. So why are they not promoting this? I mean, if it was a Muslim or a prime minister, God help us if that ever happens in the future. But let's just say it happens, next year. Do you really think these same people are going to have a go at him for saying something about Allah protecting Australia? And they'll probably encourage it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Scott Morrison, obviously he's been filmed praying, but he's done that with fellow Christians and also in religious venues. He hasn't at a press conference ever, not to my knowledge, say, he did, I think, in his victory speech on May 18, say, God bless Australia, but that's the only one that comes to mind. He doesn't do the American thing. Even Obama said, God bless you and may God bless the United States of America. But it seemed that was okay because, of course, Obama was a fake Christian. Or Kevin Rudd, he was pretty much a fake Christian. Bill Shorten apparently was a Catholic. You wouldn't have known it. So the left are okay with fake Christians.
Yeah.
Also, Penny Wong, she's a Christian as well.
She's a Christian.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, mate. Don't get me started on that. Next topic, please. I don't want to get started on Penny Wong, please.
Was she told that it was electorally wise to be a cultural Christian?
Oh, we've had an atheist prime minister in Julia Gillard.
Yeah, that turned out great, huh?
Oh, well, that was because she was incompetent, and if you criticized her, she screamed misogyny.
Well, she's done a few radio. She's been in the news recently because she's helping spearhead some mental health initiative to help.
Oh yeah, because she's with Beyond
Australians.
Blue now. She's the chairperson.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, that's good. But apart from that,
oh, and she has been graceful in retirement. She stopped the misogyny thing, and she doesn't snipe, or she just she's a stateswoman, even though she was terrible as prime minister in retirement.
She has done a lot better than Kevin Rudd.
Kevin Rudd saying that I would have handled this well. They're just copying my policies from the global financial crisis, just like he said he would have handled the bushfires well, even though he caused house fires himself with his home insulation program. Oh, and speaking of the other annoying self-absorbed prime minister, because of the coronavirus, Malcolm Turnbull's cancelled his book tour. And probably no one's going to read it now, because I think a lot of bookshops have closed.
If ever I get to hand out a punishment to those two for the treason that both of them have committed against Australia, I will force them to spend the rest of their lives in one room together. I can think of no greater punishment for either of them.
Well, I don't know if you guys, because I only got on the show about 20 minutes ago. I don't know if you've already spoken about this, but did you hear about did you guys speak about the Chinese businesses sending all that stuff?
Not yet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did. I gave a brief summary of the reports last week, because it's still attempts of shipping stuff back to, and I know Peter Dutton, he's made sure he's got his bad cop hat on. He said about the hoarders and the resellers of the stockpiling, I'm coming after you. He's nearly recovered from the coronavirus, Peter Dutton.
I was thinking.
Were you guys shocked? Sorry, Steph.
Go for it.
Were you shocked by the numbers of material that was sent over?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, mate. Yeah,
hundreds of thousands, millions of face masks or something like that.
Yeah, hand sanitizer as well. Other essential supplies.
Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
All good, mate. All good. I was thinking about this very, I don't know, intensively last night. For some reason, I was just thinking about it last night, and I just want to share my thoughts about it. So. Everyone knows what happened. You know, a lot of material was sent, and I'm just thinking. So, you have, and this falls in line with what ASIO has been saying in the past about Chinese spies and stuff, sort of ingratiating themselves with Chinese entrepreneurs.
I noticed in the last ASIO, what was it called again? Mike Burgess, his National Threat Assessment, where he talked about espionage, but they didn't name where the espionage was coming from, and it's China.
Yes,
they've basically got satellite businesses here in Australia, especially in Sydney and Melbourne, and basically if there's ever a crisis for whatever it is, they'll use them to just mobilize their people and do things that will favor China. And if they can send all this material in a state of sort of a health crisis, what's going to happen? I mentioned this a long time ago in one of your shows, Tim, about a year and a half ago. What's going to happen when there's a war, if there's a war?
Well, this could
They're going to do the same thing. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to mobilize all their workers to cause havoc in the streets, and we're going to have a domestic issue trying to control them. And we'll be able to control them because, no offense to anyone, but the Western man is a lot stronger than them. I'll leave it at that, but you know what I mean? I went to school with a lot of people of that kind, and I don't know, I was stronger than all of them just physically, Anyway, the point is that it'll be easier to control them, but still, why should we have that problem in the first place? When they're 6% of population, why should we have to deal with that? And they're going to be causing trouble. Well, imagine Box Hill in a state of war, Box Hill or Cabramatta in Sydney. It's ridiculous.
At least they're all in the one spot, so it's a little bit easier to quarantine them that way.
For all that we've been speculating, we were just talking about before, because there's two possibilities of how this outbreak happened. either it was from the batsoup or it was a bioweapon released intentionally or accidentally. And Stefanous, I'm not sure if you've heard what former House Speaker Bronwyn Bishop said on Sky News, that she believed that it was a bioweapon released to kill off non-productive Chinese and to export it to the West to cause economic disruption. So we could be in a biological war we don't know. And
it's important to understand that China have essentially been in a state of low-level war against us for quite some time. The way they see the rest of the world, that they see the rest of the world as against them, and they're trading with us, but they don't necessarily think of us as their friends. So it's entirely plausible.
Yeah, definitely.
And they
understand history too. They've got a long historical memory, so they remember what happened 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Like, to them, it's still fresh in their memory.
Yeah, and the other likely source of the outbreak was either eating bats or the bat. It might not have been the bat soup itself, but it's evolved this virus from bat coronavirus. And I said before that. Even still, there's still lefties on social media saying, "Oh, we should respect their culture," even though they sent this virus around the world. Like, fuck their culture if they're eating bats, which create a virus. Because did you know that China, 150 years ago, they used to bind girls' feet because apparently women.
I don't have a problem with that.
Look prettier, but when the British came, they said, no, this is barbaric, we're not going to do it anymore. So would the left say that if it was still happening today, if the British had said, no, that's wrong, would they still be saying that's part of their culture? I mean, female genital mutilation is defended on cultural grounds. Just because it's part of a culture, it doesn't mean that it has to be respected. That precedent has well been established. I mean, sure. I like Indian curry, which comes from their culture, but that is perfectly safe and tasty.
No, it's
with India. Remember, even the wife burning. Another example is wife burning. They used to burn their wives before the British came, and then the British stopped that. So when the husband died, they would just burn the wife for some reason. It doesn't make sense, but they'd do that. And the British were like, okay, it doesn't make sense. We're banning that from now on.
I mean, the British were just horrible cultural imperialists. I mean, they made the Indian and Chinese stop these backwards cultural practices. It was so terrible.
And there's no excuse for people who have been colonized not to open their minds a bit. Like, my heritage is from Cyprus, and Cyprus used to be a British colony. And sure, Cyprus rose up against the British, and they fought for their freedom and stuff. But the same thing is, I think that in a lot of ways, the British actually helped Cyprus be more progressive when it comes to the economy. They built roads, education, a lot of things they helped. And Cyprus wouldn't be, a successful Western country without that influence. But at the time of the uprising, we just felt we didn't need it anymore, and because we learned everything we could learn from the British, and we said it's time for us to move on. We tried diplomatically to sort of get rid of them. They wouldn't listen, so they fought. The point is that even someone like me who comes from a country that was colonized by the British, at least I can see, based on being dispassionate about history, I can see the benefits as well. And I encourage everyone, who has been, whose parents come from a colonized country, to actually look at the benefits, not just the negatives.
Well, look at India. Its most popular sport is cricket, a game introduced to them by the British colonizers. They love it. They don't hold a historical grudge against the British, unlike the Chinese. And if you, on a side note now, because India is in lockdown, and I noticed that the Antifa activists, they're now going after the Indian Hindu nationalist, because Narendra Modi is a Hindu nationalist, because the modern Republic of India was designed as basically a Hindu state. That's why they separated Pakistan to be a Muslim state. And so it's funny that these Antifa people now are saying that the state of India, the people in power, they're practicing fascism and nationalism. Indians can now be accused of being racist and fascists.
It's something to keep in mind as well. All those lefties, it's like they've got designated foreigners who they like and designated foreigners who they don't like.
Yeah, remember they still went after Sukuth, my co-founder of The Unshackled.
Yeah, and races in general. Generally, races don't like Chinese. Like we've seen how, say, in America with they've got the university rankings. You've had the Chinese students suing the universities because in lowering the standards for the black people, it makes it harder for Asians to get in. So they pick and choose basically. They're not even xenophilic. Like they're just all they care about is socialism, and all foreigners are tools for them to bring it about.
I haven't said it yet, but it's been on my mind. Remember how one of the left and the warriors of the Aboriginal resistance, their arguments against colonization is that the British brought diseases which wiped out a lot of the indigenous population, but they're perfectly fine for the Chinese to come in mass to Australia and spread this coronavirus disease.
That is an excellent point, Tim. That's worthy of an article. Excellent point.
But not all Aboriginals. I know this because I've spoken to people, which I won't mention, but there are certainly Aboriginals who would side with us when it comes to the Oriental issue, who are against what they see. And in fact, if you recall, there's probably articles about this still online. I forgot, maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, there were a lot of posters that sprung up in Redfern in Sydney, I'm pretty sure. Redfern in Sydney. And these posters had a dragon on it, like a Chinese dragon. And they were saying, like, Chinese get out or something. I don't know. But this is in Redfern. And Redfern is like, I don't know. There's a lot of Aboriginals living in Redfern. So apparently the Aboriginal community was putting up these posters because they didn't like the Chinese influence, I think, in terms of businesses, or they were just angry about the Chinese presence in Redfern. I think there are a lot of Chinese migrants coming there and businesses springing up. But there's definitely Aboriginals who don't agree with what's happening with regard to the
there was
Chinese influence.
There was a lot of Aboriginal custodians and elders who didn't support same-sex marriage, but their voices were quietly suppressed by the Aboriginal city elite.
Yeah.
There are definitely some wedges there.
Yeah.
Well, the Northern Territory, they've also completely closed their borders to help protect the Aborigines from the coronavirus. There's 15 cases in the Northern Territory. The first one was brought in by New South Welshmen, so that's how it started there. And that's what I was saying. We're seeing Australia itself disintegrate back into the 6 colonies.
Yeah, I'm surprised with the Aboriginals. I'm surprised there hasn't been a domestic coronavirus, because I've seen video. I saw a documentary once where one of the this Aboriginal woman was picking a worm, like an earthworm, from mud, and she put grubs. No, it was an earthworm, and okay. I'm not kidding. She got the worm and put it in her mouth, and she was sucking the worm, And as she was sucking the worm in her mouth, all the mud that was on the worm started going, like went on her lips, and her lips were covered in mud. I'm just wondering, all these things that happened, you'd think that by doing all that, how come it hasn't been like something as a disease?
You've reminded me of there was a disease that did outbreak in, this is from the ABC in April 2018. This is what the caption says. In a brightly lit lab in the outback town of Alice Springs, researchers have been inspecting virals of blood infected with an ancient virus that has lurked Australia for thousands of years. It's called T-cell lymphotropic virus type 1, or HTLV1, and Australia has the highest levels in the world. It's a distant relative of HIV. It is a bloodborne virus that can be sexually transmitted or passed from mother to child, and the virus is thought to have arrived in Australia from Indonesia thousands of years ago, but it continues to affect Aboriginals in the heart of the country. Researchers from Barker's Institute for Heart Disease and Diabetes in Alice Springs estimate 45% of Indigenous adults in Central Australia had HDLV1. In remote Australia, it's so out of sight, out of mind with a lot of these things. Health is just one of those things. Central Australia researchers estimate 5,000 people were infected, and it's basically it's a combination of researchers say leukemia caused by the virus could be rapidly fatal, so it's basically a combination of AIDS and cancer.
So they eat goannas, raw. I see all this stuff what they do in the bush, and it's really similar to what the Chinese are doing. I'm just surprised they haven't caught anything or created some sort of virus.
Well, they
need a government lab just down the road to help kick it along.
Can you imagine though if we did have that situation where Aboriginals created like a virus that was exported to the world? Imagine our reputation as a country. I'd be so embarrassed by that. Everyone would hate us. It'd be so embarrassing. Anyway, that's just all.
Well, a lot of Australians were embarrassed when the toilet paper panic buying started, and then it morphed into people bought rice and pasta. But even though it originated in Australia, it spread to the US and UK and was much worse and ferocious. But we did start it.
We started the bog roll pandemic.
Because supermarkets in I've seen footage and images of supermarkets in the UK where even the cake section is empty. In the Australian supermarkets, we've still got plenty of junk food, cakes, and everything.
The Poms need their tea and cake. It has been interesting going to the supermarkets, and it seems like people are valuing healthy food in a crisis.
Yeah,
because I've seen that. I've seen the chocolate section is still pretty full, and all those you know how they'll have regular oats and then they'll have oats with honey or something like that.
Yeah,
that's available.
Yes,
all the regular stuff.
Still Fruit Loops, but everyone's been going for the value pack of Wheat Bix mainly.
Yeah. I've got to apologise to people because this whole lockdown is and this is a public apology. So my apologies to everyone who I should have thought better, but I couldn't resist. I've been buying a lot of 2-minute me-goring Asian noodles, mate. To withstand this whole, just to save money, I've been eating that shit for like another last week and a half, mate.
Get oats. Porridge fills you up. It'll keep you going all day.
Any recommendations on like non-Asian food that is cheap that I can eat, apart from meat pies, obviously? Something else?
The reason everyone's been going for the pasta is because it's pretty cheap to make a spaghetti bolognese, because what is it, $1 for a packet of pasta, about $3 for sauce, and $6 for some mince as well. So you can feed your family for, as the Coles slogan said, for under $10. Brucey Boy has said, vegan section still chockers at my local shops. Yes, I wrote an article about that, where there have been plenty of local sightings of empty meat sections, with the plant-based meat section still very well stocked.
Yeah, I've been making this spag bowl. I got plenty of meat in the freezer. Yeah, the porridge works. Yeah, porridge works well.
Well, there's still plenty
started growing
of
stuff in the backyard too.
Like meat is obviously because it's perishable, it gets restocked regularly, so you can still cook. I've been cooking lots of steaks. Been eating quite healthy, as I said. No more. Oh, well, I noticed that all the TV dinners at the supermarkets now are out of stock anyway.
Yeah. And also a bit of advice on I don't know if this works, but I've got a motorbike mask because when I used to go to all the anti-Islam rallies back in the day of the UPF and Reclaim Australia, I needed a mask to wear, so I invested in an Australian flag fucking motorbike mask. And I'm just wondering, that's probably a better form of mask to wear when I go shopping and stuff, and I go for my bike ride in a neighborhood. I just wear my mask, and it actually works well because you don't have to replace it, you don't have to wash it. Unlike those the $2 masks, you need to replace every now and then. A motorbike mask you get for like $10 on eBay. It's worth it. So yeah, if you need an idea to keep yourself protected that lasts a while, just get a motorbike mask from eBay.
They'll be worth $100 by the end of the week, Stefanous.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find them $10, but yeah.
Someone's reminded me in the chat. Remember the climate emergency? You remember that where we're all told that we had to live in pods and eat bugs, even though we now know that eating bugs would probably cause another virus, and living in close pods together would spread the virus quicker.
Well, you saw what happened. You saw what happened with some Greens senator, some Greens politician. They were advertising this climate change festival or rally, and then all of a sudden it got cancelled because of the corona thing, and they had to make an announcement. And it's like, okay, if that was such a crisis and an emergency, how come you got cancelled for corona?
You notice that the Greens, like I haven't seen them on the news at all. Any of the Green senators. I know that Sarah Hanson-Young has been lying low since she gave that character reference to that political advisor friend who pled guilty to slapping his wife. But I haven't seen Adam Bant or who are some of the others? Maureen Faruqi. I haven't seen them much on the news.
And Jordan Steele and Adam Bant are doing a lot of live streams. If you go on their Facebook, Jordan Steele and Adam Bant are doing a lot of live streams, and they're arguing for like supporting people.
Yeah, because there's the 6-month freeze on evictions now. It's interesting, didn't they like the left? Haven't they tried to get in the past people kicked out of their homes for wrongthink? Can
you elaborate on that? I don't remember that. What happened there?
Oh, it's part of the wider deplatforming movement.
That's a very good point. Okay. Yeah.
They go for anything, the left, whether it be your job, your bank account, or your rental property, or anything.
Reminds me of poor old Bernard Gaynor, being sued all the time by. Yeah.
Well, the professional activist class, they can't hold any more rallies now. I think the last socialist alternative event that they were going to hold, which they had to cancel, was the march against Murdoch.
Yeah, well, that sort of ties into my point that I was making just as Matty was leaving. Matty, Stefanous, I'll put this same thing to you. And I'll build on that. So if the left aren't able to gather in public, basically they're now on the same footing as we have been for the last decade or two. So that actually evens up the score because they can't occupy space and they can't, they're equally as threatened as we are for expressing their views in public because they'll be moved on or put in jail. What we're seeing at the moment, we're seeing so many things change. Like what used to be incremental, now everything's just moving so quickly. Things are being overturned at the drop of a hat. We've got the mainstream media making XYZ talking points where they're talking about all these Chinese companies setting...
Yeah, and condemning the wet markets and the batsoup.
Yeah. So we've actually got implicit nationalist talking points being talked about in the mainstream media. We've got growing anger at China, and people understanding that it's multiculturalism and open borders which has spread this coronavirus.
And also respecting cultural practices which are unhygienic.
All of that, and all of a sudden, when you've got to think about survival, all of a sudden there aren't the usual the usual conditionings against being so-called racist sort of drop away. My argument here is basically this is actually a chance for us to make political headway again, to get another Fraser Anning kind of moment. What do you think of that?
Well, who's going to be the Fraser Anning? I know that some of the nationalist leaning politicians in Parliament are finding a bit more of their voice in, because I mentioned the reparations from China. I think it was, as you, Dave, mentioned, it came from Malcolm Roberts. George Christensen has also championed that as well. He's another nationalist-leaning politician as well.
Yeah, so you're going to see guys who are already in Parliament stepping up and actually making implicit nationalist talking points. This is a chance actually to get somebody elected who actually gets up and actually makes it more explicit.
Yeah, well, things are becoming more explicit in society. Whether we need it in Parliament, who knows what will happen. But
yeah,
and I think this is wrong. Just so you know, I don't encourage people to do this. But all these videos I saw a couple of videos of like Australian women having a go at Asians, just calling
we
them
talked
a bunch
about
of
that
racist
at the
stuff.
beginning. There was another one today. I said it was on a train. Apparently, it was near the Chinese consulate.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, these people that do this, did they become racist all of a sudden, or were they always racist and they just lost it? I'm just wondering, has this crisis red-pilled them? I'm just wondering if it's red-pilled them just all of a sudden.
Yeah, the argument I make is that in the past, like virtue signaling, it's like slow motion suicide. In like the next generation, your kids are going to be the only white kids in the swimming pool. Now virtue signaling is it could cost you your whole family because you go to a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened in Italy. Like, as we said.
So like until a few weeks ago, being openly racist had all of these detrimental effects. You could lose your job. You could lose everything. Now, all of a sudden, everybody is in danger of losing everything. All of a sudden, those barriers to doing that sort of stuff, they're not there anymore. And so I think you're going to see more and more of this.
Yeah. So if there are people who are explicitly, a very small minority who are explicitly racist, which is wrong, I think if you're going to be racist, just vote for it, or do it in other ways. Don't be
vote racist. Don't be racist.
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid. It looks bad. It's ridiculous. Anyway, the point is that if there are a small minority of explicit people who are doing that, imagine all the silent people who are just getting really pissed off.
Because you're hearing the mutterings. Like, I'm not so if you're sort of overhearing conversations at the local like supermarkets where people sort of muttering to themselves about they're saying, oh, look at these empty shelves and all the masks. We know who's responsible. They're sort of saying that under their breath.
Yeah, and also the Daigou shoppers. I mean, all these videos, I used to upload them on my YouTube channel, and I'm like, that's red-pilling people as well. I mean, when you see a pack of Asians going into a supermarket, and I see like an teenage Aussie boy putting like toilet paper on the shelf from the boxes, and then once it gets put on the shelf, you got some Asian woman.
I think this was the baby formula, not the toilet paper.
Baby. Yeah, I've seen both, but the point, it's still happening. It's still happening even now. And I'm just wondering, even that is red-pilling people, because you have mainstream Aussies uploading that footage to Facebook, and I'm reading all these comments on these conservative and right-wing groups, and everyone's really pissed off and having a go at these people. And there is a racial element to this, because they're angry, and they're making a lot of racist comments.
DJ has said here in the comments, public service announcement, racism starts with me.
Well, a big shout out on a weird note. He's a friend of mine. A shout out to him in Sydney. he's been helping me out with a few things, but he's a good bloke.
Are you getting back into it, Stefanous? Because
No. Zorba Dundee is, I don't know, because the way I see it, if I start again, it's going to get ripped down.
Well, yeah, so, if you YouTube, I'm not sure, BitChute or maybe, I'm not sure if you've spoken BitChute with James Fox Higgins, Rational Rise TV.
Right now.
I'm thinking about Brighteon. I'm thinking about Brighteon. I don't know if you've heard Brighteon before.
No.
But Brighteon is okay. I haven't tried it yet, but I might re-upload my stuff there. But right now, I'm just playing around with the Zorba Dundee. So if you haven't seen it, check out Zorba Dundee. I put a few videos on Zorba Dundee of Hannah Ayub, that Muslim woman who spat on a police officer. I did a bit of a remix of Can't Touch This song. What's that guy's name that sings that song, the black guy? And I put a repeat of her getting smashed to the ground with Can't Touch This song in the background. So I'm playing around on YouTube a bit, but as for another platform, work in progress, I guess. I'll keep you updated on that one. Yeah.
We've got a super chat on Entropy from PC Leaks Pete, formerly Peter V, for $3 Australian dollars. Oi, Tim Rambo, make cows fart again, more meat. Fuck bog roll, I'd rather go for a Turkish flag instead. Virtual signalling is disappearing. Roots, Calhoun was right.
I just got triggered, mate. Someone mentioned Turkish flag. I got triggered right now. I am triggered right
Peter
now.
V is actually Greek himself. I think he's
I
just
know,
being
but
ironic.
still, I know.
And we've also got a $50 US dollar super chat from Savnik. Thank you so much. Have Slav Koren, my fellow nationalists. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I noticed, Stefanous, because you've been away for a while, you're not up with the latest hate symbols, because you're still just doing the OK sign. Where there's more now. There's the two fingers for two genders, and then there's also the one finger now for Australia First.
The one finger. Can you do it, or what's the one
finger?
Like that.
Yeah. Because
that's what you see Arabs do. That's what Arabs do in the Middle East.
It started with the Groiper army and the America First movement over in the United States. That's when they're posing for photos. Even Michelle Malkin is doing it now when they're posing for photos, whether it be at AFPAC or other America First events. They all do the photos together with them doing that.
Okay, well, thanks for the update. It's very important that I should update with the latest hate symbols, so I'll definitely use them. So thanks a lot for updating me on that.
I'm not sure, is there any more foods which are hateful? Like, obviously, there's milk, symbol of white supremacy.
Meat.
Trying to
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that we'll just go to the ADL website. I'm not sure if they got their bailout.
Did you know that Eric Satie, the French Impressionist composer Eric Satie, in the last decade of his life, he became obsessed with the color white. He actually moved into a white house. He only wore white clothing, and he only ate food that was white. He was utterly balmy. Brilliant composer.
I remember there was this was one of the early Big Brother productions where they put they weren't housemates. They were sort of like they were sort of in competition for the final housemate position, and they had to live in a white room. They had to wear white and eat white food. They were living in an all.
Oh really?
Yeah.
They were going to Satie.
I had a bit of a white phenomenon. What do you call it? A white sort of moment, so to speak, before the coronavirus happened. So just between whatever, I'm not very much into fashion. I rarely went shopping. I go shopping every 4 years to buy new jeans. Like I'll wait. I'm not that kind of person that buys things every year. I'll wait for things to break down, then I'll replace my clothes. Anyway, then all of a sudden I started a couple of weeks ago just to be more fashion aware. I don't know why. I went to H&M. I went to all these places, and I've bought so many white sweatshirts. It's not funny. I went to H&M, and I was amazed by the quality of clothing. I had no idea what H&M was, believe it or not. I had no idea that H&M was actually a company, a fashion company. And I went inside. It's in the city of Melbourne. It's massive. And the clothing that I found was amazing. And I was buying all these white sweaters. Right now I've got a bit of a fixation and obsession with white sweaters. Because my style is like jeans and white sweaters. And I just bought like 10 white sweaters. And yeah, I love wearing white sweaters for some reason.
So H&M are the official sponsors of the Australian alt-right.
Yeah, basically, I encourage everyone to go to H&M, 100%. If
we're talking about what's in fashion at the moment at the end of the show, you two are probably not aware, but one of Lady Gaga's most famous outfits was the caution dress, where she had all that caution tape on her. I think people are going to be wearing clothing with caution tape on them to make sure that people keep their social distancing.
I think in coming years you're going to see women's fashion become a lot more conservative for some reason.
Well, I was sort of thinking with the women who wear the niqab or the burqa, they're probably thinking, you're laughed at how we look now. Well, who's laughing now? We're completely protected from people coughing on us or anything.
Hey, are you advocating what Sharia though, Tim?
No, I'm just sort of saying that because we are seeing a lot of people in face masks now and obviously not wanting their bodies flesh exposed, and I guess that is one in a medical sense to basically... Have you seen some of the sort of more outrageous protective costumes people have been spotted wearing in supermarkets?
I've seen those plastic bottles on people's heads.
Yeah. So I guess a burqa does sort of look the sort of most fashionable out of all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe the Sikh turban, does that that helps protect your hair as well, and also the Arabic turban.
I'll tell you what, if they make, and this is a joke, I love the Australian flag, but hypothetical, if they made a burqa out of like an Australian flag burqa, I'd wear that just to protect myself. Oh man.
All right, we might wrap it up now. It's good to see you again, Stefanous. Hopefully we see a bit more of you back. Who have you got on your shirt there? I can just make it out there.
That's Boondock Saints. I'll type it in the comments. It's called Boondock Saints. It's my favourite movie, actually. It's a movie about... I think a lot of right-wingers would love it because it's about two Christian brothers who go around killing mobsters, like drug dealers and gangsters. So because the law is like failing society and people getting out of prison. So what they just decide to kill all these gangsters. There's two films. The original's the best, but there's a sequel. But if you're interested, just Google Boondock Saints and watch the movie. Go from there.
Port Film Co-op has just said no James Fox Higgins tonight. No, there is not. As you probably all noticed, James was not with us tonight. He's doing some other work, though he has got some big shows in the works. So next Tuesday evening, he's going to be interviewing Mark Collette, founder of Patriotic Alternative and host of Patriotic Review Weekly. Basically, the sort of, it's a pinnacle of the type of guest our audience like.
Yeah, good on him. Good on him.
Somebody said James Fox Higgins getting red for Collette. Yeah, maybe. You'd want to do your due diligence and homework for that. I'll be back tomorrow night for Trad Tasman Talk. We're going to have... Our shows now are basically going to be competitions now. The Tasman Totalitarianism Trophy, who's going to win it? Is it going to be Australia or New Zealand? Rivalry, who can have the most fascist police state?
Australia, mate. We always beat New Zealand.
Well, we're catching up. I mean, Jacinta was flat out of the blocks with shutting down everything except the big supermarkets. And with all the... Well, they already had the police harassing people for a year beforehand after the Christchurch massacre. If you had the wrong political opinions or you're a gun owner who had some views they didn't like. All right. Any... Dave?
People know just check out me and Matty on Monday nights, 9:00, and come to the XYZ.
Yeah,
we'll put something up every morning.
Unshackled.net. That's where our written content is published. It's also a hub for all of our Unshackled productions, and of course my Wilms Front website, timwilms.com, and we also have a Uncuckables archive website at theuncuckables.com, which has got a link to all the podcast versions. So thank you everyone for watching tonight. Thank you for all the super chats. Hopefully we'll get the Tuesday show back up and running again, and we'll see you soon.
No worries. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Everyone. God bless.
The Uncuckables.